Yes, Steve, 20 seconds. That's all I'm asking. Hey, Steve,
Hey, Greg.
how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to get talking today. Welcome to Bird Brag, everybody. Can you believe it's episode 13?
Lucky 13.
Lucky, I thought the same thing. Lucky 13.
Nice.
Who wore number 13? Who's some famous sports athletes that wore number
Oh,
13? Two come to mind right away.
you put me on the spot. I'm so bad at this.
Well, there's a Rams quarterback you should be able to name pretty easily.
Uh, is it Ferragamo?
No. Ferragamo were 15, I believe.
Dude, I'm so
Kurt
bad.
Warner. Kurt Warner.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Didn't Jeter wear 13 as well?
I think Jeter did. Yeah.
Not Jeter. A-Rod? A-Rod. Because Jeter wore like 2 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Jeter was 2. He was is he the last single-digit Yankee to get his number retired?
Whoa, that's a deep cut. I don't know if that's true or not, but I really like it.
He's close. If he's not the last, there's not many.
Oh, all right. So, like I said, welcome to Bird Brag. And what I thought we would do is kind of reset for new listeners, who you are, Steve. And then I'm a nobody, so I really don't have to describe myself. But but why don't you tell some people about yourself?
Just some of the people?
Just some people. Why don't you tell all of the people, every one of our listeners, about yourself?
Okay. So my name is Steve, and I'm a wildlife biologist in Northern California. I'm part of a group of biologists that we manage a small wildlife refuge just south of Sacramento. We do a lot of habitat restoration and work, and a lot of wildlife monitoring. And one of my passions, my deep passions, is public education and public interface. And we do a lot of that at my work as well. And then with the whole coronavirus, work from home, shelter in place, quarantine stuff, I think you were going a little stir crazy. And so we decided to just go for it. And so that's how the podcast was born.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Nailed it. And I am Steve's drinking buddy. And so, and I get a kick out of learning this stuff. So we always start the show with, what are you drinking today, Steve?
As you know, Greg, it's like, maybe you don't know since you're not up here, I don't think, but it's like 102 degrees here today. So
I went with the trusty guy.
Ice cold Miller Lite.
With an ice cold Miller Lite. You beat me to the punch this time. I bet that was a note you had to yourself. So I almost went, I love that sound. Almost went with a martini tonight, with a Tito's martini. But it's in San Diego. It's warm today too. And while I might have a martini in a little bit, I mixed it up. And I went fancy. I went with a Peroni, and Peroni equals party to me. Peroni equals good time. Peroni, you know what Peroni really equals? It equals Thursday night to me. And it's not Thursday, it's Wednesday. But I know. But I thought I had a day. It was one of those days. And so I went with Peroni.
All right. Yeah, Peroni is too close to jabroni for me.
Never. Dude, don't get me started. All right. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, Greg.
All right. Well, we're hot off an exciting Dragonfly episode.
That episode's taken off, by the way.
We got new listeners.
It's climbing the charts.
I mean, it was a pretty good episode. Do we know what we're talking about today?
We do. I'm super psyched out of my mind right now.
What?
The last two, I was pretty hesitant, but today I'm super excited.
You know, one of these times we talked about it. We said we were going to do shots during the podcast to get you pumped up for stuff. So let's not forget that moving forward. So I like that you're excited. I'm excited that you're excited.
Yeah.
So where are we talking about today?
So today we're going to be talking about a bird called the American Dipper. But I learned this bird as the water ouzel.
Well, I like that name better than the American Dipper.
I do too.
Say it again.
Water ouzel.
Ouzel.
Ouzel. I didn't take the time to look up the etymology of that word. I should have. But and the reason, so I learned it as that because my dad, he's obviously, older than me for some.
Wait, your dad is?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
I know
All right.
it doesn't seem like it, but
It doesn't always happen that way.
no,
A
no.
lot of the sci-fi movies I watch, that's happened before.
Okay,
Well, Back to the Future, that was the whole premise. Back to the
okay,
Future.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So,
So,
so he taught it to me as a water ouzel, along with some other birds. And so, kind of one of the things I like to do is well, let me back up a little bit. So, there's a group that used to be called the American Ornithologist Union, and in 1886, they created kind of standardized English names for all the American birds so that people wouldn't be confused. Because all living species, as you probably know, Greg, even though you're, you're not a science major, you're not a
no,
STEM major.
no.
They all have what's called a Latin name. So it's two words. It's the genus and species, and some of them are Latin, some of them are just kind of, fit into sound Latin. But those are kind of hard to remember for a lot of people. So in 1886, the AOU made a push to standardize common names for birds, and I think they're the only group of animals or species that have actually accepted and approved common names. So it's kind of nice. So unfortunately, that drops off some of these names like water ouzel, but I kind of like the history of some of these old names, and some of them are pretty neat, and they're very descriptive.
Yeah, well, any bird named by Dr. Seuss is going to be, one of our favorite birds, obviously. Yeah, the ouzels and the drusels and the moozles.
Yeah,
that book was awesome.
eating their streusel.
All right, so lay it on us. Describe, where are we going to call it today? Are we going to call it the American Dipper? Or are we going to call it the water ouzel?
I might go in and out. It's hard to say.
All right, so describe the water ouzel for us. Paint a picture.
So you know how a lot of birds are super colorful and bright, and especially in their breeding plumage, and just like you can't take your eyes off them. They look like little gemstones. So this bird is not one of those. This it's about 16 and a half centimeters, which is about 6.5 inches. And it's kind of a round.
I like that you gave the 0.5 centimeter on that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean that's key. That's key.
No, it's crucial. It's about 16.5 centimeters.
Yeah. That's just off the top of my head. I mean, when I'm
I get it.
So they're kind of a plump, round bird, and they have a really short tail, so not much of a tail. So they almost look like a little ball, and they're almost a uniform charcoal gray, and they have a black bill, but it kind of blends with the rest of their charcoal gray body, and they have pretty long legs. That's kind of one thing that's a little bit notable about them. And so really they're fairly nondescript from just a strictly visual standpoint, but they're very unmistakable because of where they live and their behaviors and how they act. So even though they're very nondescript, they're actually pretty easy to identify because one, you're in their habitat, and two, you see them doing certain things that you instantly know, oh, that's a water ouzel.
So what's so funny is because by the name alone, meaning nothing, because I don't know anything, I pictured like a big stork-like thing, water ooze, like the name Ouzel. I just pictured a big bird for whatever reason. No idea why. Just out of there. So, but I
mean, 16 centimeters. That's pretty big.
And a half, approximately.
Yeah. So they weigh about 1.6 ounces, which is 46 grams. Okay. I almost forgot. So one of the only place that their feathers aren't charcoal gray is if they close their eyes, they have white feathers on their eyelids.
What?
So when they close their eyes, it looks like little Orphan Annie. It looks like they got white eyes or white eyelids. So that's
so I'm going to go, let me go back to some of my science that I've taken. I'm going to go with the fact that it's going to be a evolutionary thing that when they're sleeping, they still look like they're awake, so that prey is hesitant to go after them. So
they've actually studied it very carefully, and what they deduced is that the reason is just pure vanity.
Stop it. My reasoning is so much more logical.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes.
This is what I'm saying.
But
Yeah.
then they
Like trying to sneak up on him. They're like, is he awake? Is he asleep? Is he awake? Is he asleep?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So when you see them, so that those kind of behavior characteristics that I was talking about. So this is a bird that inhabits typically mountainous regions in fast flowing streams or rivers. So they're not going to be very far from fast moving water. And typically you see them and they'll be on a rock in the middle or swimming sometimes on the water. They don't have webbed feet, but they can swim actually fairly decently. And the reason that they're called American Dipper is because they bob up and down on those long legs.
It's not because they like roller coasters.
It could be because they like roller coasters.
Okay.
I mean, living on one of those rivers is probably like having your own roller coaster for the most part.
So just saying.
Women.
Yeah.
But some biologists had to count them, and so they said they bob about 40 to 60 times per minute sometimes. So I'm not sure what the metric conversion on that is, but
yeah,
we'll stick with the minutes. How come we don't have metric time, by the way? Hundredths and...
Don't get me started.
Okay.
Don't get me started. 24 hours
a
day? 24? No, let's talk about it for a second. No logical sense for this, right? No.
Yeah.
There's a great book called Longitude.
Uh-huh.
You haven't read it. It's about the key to, in the 1600, 1700, 1800, the key to accurately telling where you were navigating yourself on a boat was time. It was and they could never figure out how to accurately keep time on a boat for that. And they go a little bit into the genesis of hours and Y24 and this and that, but because it could be anything.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we could whatever. What drives me crazy in sci-fi movies is when they talk about time, and they specifically talk about days, months, years, and time, because that's not going to be the case on any other planet. You're not going to have a consistent time, nor year, nor day. It's a bugaboo of mine. And so, and then when they talk about, we'll meet you in an hour. Whose hour? What hour? What are you talking about?
I assume they're wearing like watches or something.
But like, what hour? Whose hour? We've adopted Earth hours everywhere in the universe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like Star Wars.
It's kind of like English, I guess.
Yeah, where they speak English in every other planet, in every planet. Yeah, that's exactly it.
All the planets.
Yeah. Okay. So 40 to 60 times Bob's BPM.
Yes. DPM, right? Dips per minute?
Oh, dips per minute. The dippers. I thought it was Bob's.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right. I did say Bob's, but that's how they got their name.
I like DPM. I'm down with DPM.
So the cool thing about this bird, this is so cool, is they do most of their foraging underwater. So they can, a lot of times they'll be on kind of a gradual slope into the water. They can walk underneath the water and they'll turn over rocks and pick up insects.
Wait a minute. Fish. Walk under the water? Uh-huh. What are we talking? They're 1 point whatever ounces that you just said. Like they're like, how are they weighing themselves down to walk underwater?
I don't know, but they can dive underwater. They can swim, or they can fly underwater. They can go down
Steve,
20 feet.
Are you listening to yourself?
So I think
you're hearing yourself talk, right?
I think frictionally they can grab onto that bottom and keep themselves on the bottom, I guess, because
pretty amazing,
pretty buoyant.
Yeah.
And so they do have a lot of adaptations to do that. So obviously if they're picking in food and foraging underwater, they got to be able to see, because they can't really smell underwater. So they have what's called a nictitating membrane. It's like a clear eyelid that goes over their eye when they're underwater, so that they can see their prey and keep their eyes open. And then they have a little flap of skin or a scale that actually closes their nostrils off, so that they don't get water going into their nostrils when they're underwater foraging for food.
So these guys are badass. I like these guys already.
So cool.
I could see why you were excited.
Oh yeah. I don't know why this wasn't episode 1.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you have those thoughts a lot.
Yeah. Well, sure.
We have lots of regrets.
Totally.
Okay, let's talk about, well, so they're, let's talk about their habitat. Let's talk about, well, first, where do we find these guys? I don't think that we really got to that. Like, what part of the world are we finding the
Yeah.
water ouzel?
So they're always found in mountainous regions, and their range in the mountainous regions that they're in the range from about Panama all the way up to Alaska. But they're only when they go through North America, they're only in kind of the western part of the United States. So about the Rockies over to all the way to the Pacific coast, and then all the way up into Alaska, and then as far south as Panama, but only in these mountainous regions, other than, an odd bird here and there that's headed to Norway or something.
So Central America to the North America.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we find them here, in California in the Sierra. And so in the Sierra, they're maybe from 2,000 feet elevation to 10,000 feet elevation. In the Rockies, they go a little higher because the timberline's higher there. So they'll be like maybe 11,500 feet over there. And I think they're kind of in timberline because that's kind of where your insect activity and food that they need is going to be below that for the most part. So they're pretty widespread species. But worldwide, there's only, I think, 4 species of dippers. So this is our North American and Central American version, I guess.
And so, is there a European dipper?
I don't know the names of the other ones, but and
with the name American in front of it, it kind of made it sound like it, but I wouldn't know either. So let's talk about their habitat itself.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, they're never going to be found too far from these fast-flowing streams in the mountains. So they rely on these streams both to feed in and to build their what, Greg? To build their
nests,
which takes us right into your favorite topic, I think.
Clutch size.
Clutch size.
Yeah.
So
hashtag clutch size, everyone. By the way, please use it. Yes. Hashtag clutch size. Maybe we need to decide what the exact hashtag would be in regards to how big is your clutch? What was the suggestion?
Oh, it was how big is your clutch? Yeah, I think that is.
We had a listener give a suggestion about some ideas for us and some swag. So nest is made out of what?
So that's kind of they build a really cool nest. It's about maybe a foot in diameter, metrically speaking, a foot in diameter.
European football size?
Yeah, maybe a little smaller.
Not American football size.
Right. Yeah. Football size. And
that would be Central American football.
Yeah. And so the outer layer is built out of moss. So they build this nest out of moss, and it's always built on like a ledge or a rock above usually fairly deep water. So like maybe 6 to 20 feet above kind of a deep pool. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of helps. So
that seems like there wouldn't be that many spots like that.
That's really sharp that you brought that up, because that's
Thank you.
What biologists think is one of the limiting factors of their population is a lack of really good nest sites. Because obviously there's miles and miles of appropriate stream habitat, but if you don't have those nest sites, then you're not going to have these birds. And so they build this outer layer of moss, and then inside they build like a grassy cup that they actually lay the eggs and the young live in. And there's like a hole in the side, or sometimes it's near the bottom where they can access the nest from. So it's a pretty cool nest. Sometimes they're behind waterfalls and under bridges and a lot of cool places.
Yeah, they're persnickety where they go.
Very
location.
Oh yeah,
the number one thing when building a house.
Exactly.
So these birds get it. More reasons to like the water ouzel. Exactly.
And so getting to the actual clutch size.
Yeah.
So they usually lay 2 to 4, maybe 5 eggs sometimes. The eggs are about 2.5 centimeters, which is how many inches for our American listeners, Greg?
What was the question again? How'd you phrase that?
2.5 centimeters.
I'm going to go 2.5 centimeters is just about an inch.
Just about an inch. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
so that's about how big their eggs are. And then they incubate those for 15 to 17 days. And then after they hatch, they feed the younger in the nest for like maybe 20 to 25 days before they're kind of out and working with the parents, learning how to feed themselves.
All right, lay it on me. What else you got?
So for a bird that is basically, half-time aquatic, they have a lot of interesting adaptations for life in and underwater and in some of these cold environments, like in the mountains. We already talked about the nictitating membrane and the flap of skin that goes over their nostril. So they're actually, I neglected to mention this earlier, they're actually a songbird. They're not like in evolutionarily, they're a songbird. They're not a water bird like a shorebird or a duck or anything like that. So they're really closely related to wrens and thrushes. So for a songbird, they have a huge preening gland. It's like 10 times the size of any other songbird preening gland. And what they have an oil in that they put in their feathers, which helps keep them waterproof, and so they don't get waterlogged and super cold and wet when they go underwater. And so that evidently gives them kind of a smell. They smell a little bit musty and musky, kind of, I guess would be a better word for it.
Mm-hmm. That's another cool fact and evolution on this. You think of ducks and water off a duck's back, obviously. Right. So these guys have a very similar coat that they can put on to help them in that same way.
Right. Yeah. And
so
then
when they have their scuba gear on, when they're underwater, walking underwater,
or flying,
flying underwater.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they also, in these high elevational streams, it's really cold, obviously. So they have extra thick feathers that help keep them warm, and they have a really low metabolic rate, so they can they don't need as much energy to keep their body going in those cold temperatures. And they're kind of like, I guess, the Lance Armstrong of birds, because their blood has like extra good oxygen carrying capacity, so that they can, one, stay underwater and forage and do these things that they need to do to feed themselves and maintain their body and all that kind of stuff.
That they got to be super bummed when they get compared to Lance Armstrong these days, though. That was really cool about 12 years ago. They could have really been proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've talked about this before. Having a bummer name's a bummer. You're imagine you're really successful. This is like you're in the 80s, like in the 1980s, really successful doctor. You have this great practice. You're a pediatrician. You're like everyone loves you, and your name happens to be Dr. Jack Kevorkian.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do at that point? You're not I'm not saying he's the Jack Kevorkian. I'm saying he's a Jack Kevorkian.
Or even just Kevorkian, because
he didn't do anything. Well, and my dad born 1937, John Carson. No one was hurting anybody at that point.
Yeah.
Bam, so, all comes along the 60s, and Johnny Carson and the Tonight Show happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have two in my family, because my dad's name is Rick Scott, who is the notoriously terrible governor of Florida, right? And then my mom's name is Karen. And we all know what Karens are these days.
Yeah, Karen's a bummer. And I have a sister, Karen, obviously. Yeah. I haven't laid that one on her yet. I'm really saving that one. I'm saving to lower the boom on that one.
And it's funny because my mom is pretty much the opposite of what you think of as Karen for the most part. But, like you said, you got the name you got.
Yeah. I mean, it's what a bummer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm liking where all this is going. We got more?
You know what? I think you've pretty much exhausted all of my knowledge of American dippers. So
I like this episode. I like it. The water ouzel, the American dipper. We're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna name this episode now. We haven't had this conundrum before. Okay.
It might depend on the and stuff.
Did you hear that?
Oh, it's That's good. I like that one.
This is good. That's our music for And Stuff, everybody, our transition. And before we actually get into And Stuff, we have a little controversy brewing for the music for And Stuff. I don't know if you want to acknowledge anybody or if you just want to let that sit for a little bit, Steve, but it was like hot off the presses right before we got on the air.
Yeah. Well, we talked last time about my other friend who plays a bass.
Right.
What are the odds? Who the heck plays a bass?
And so let's set the story for us. Did he hear the episode or did you have to tell him to listen to the episode?
I warned him because I was.
That's smart. That's smart. Yeah.
I said, and it was before we did. So I think it was the Cactus Wren episode when we first laid out the new bass line. And he had actually talked to me about, because he had heard the other intro music and he talked about recording some music and I just kind of blew him off, whatever. and then our friend's brother sent us some bass.
Right. So we got a big shout out to the Martins, to Mr. Martin and Mr. Martin. Yep.
Unsolicited.
Well, a little bit solicited. That's a different story.
And so when we aired that episode, I told him, I said, don't be mad at me. I didn't do this on purpose. I didn't ask for this. They just sent them to us and we went with it. But then I said, after we recorded the Darner episode, when we came up with the bass off, I was like, okay, everything's good. Listen to episode 12 and you're going to be back in. And so he said he listened to both 11 and 12 today.
Uh-huh.
And he said after 12, he had his bass in his hand and he just started recording. And
oh man, I'm excited.
What was his words? He was playing mad.
Playing like, there's two ways I can go. Playing mad, like he's playing angry and getting it done, or he's like playing like mad, like a crazy person. He's playing mad.
He definitely meant angry.
So yeah. Oh, I like it. So someone did a hard foul under the basket and now he's playing mad.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, let's listen. Maybe this will be the last time we hear our transition, this exact transition music. So let's hear it one more time. I love that track.
Favorite.
But we like controversy as much. Okay. And Stuff. I originally was going to talk about a new show called Space Force. Have you seen this yet?
I haven't seen it, but I actually got a text or email about it today, but I haven't seen it.
So good. It's unbelievable. I'm only 3 or 4 episodes in. It's just so good.
Who's in that? I forgot.
Steve Carell.
That's right.
Plays a 4-star general who thinks he's about to get put in charge of the Air Force, but because of the president, they never say his name, creating the Space Force, he is then thrust in charge of the Space Force that he does not want. And Greg Daniels, who helped develop the American Office and created Parks and Rec, one of my favorite shows of all time, and King of the Hill, created this. And the story's great. Well, I'm not going to get, but the quick story was that Netflix came to Steve Carell with no script, no idea, no anything except the title Space Force, and said, do you want to develop a show called Space Force? And he said, yes. Nice. And then he called up Greg Daniels and said, hey, I'm doing a show, Space Force. Do you want to be involved? And he goes, yes. And that's all they had. So great story. Everyone watch it. I won't get into it. But what I'm going to talk about today, because I had a really weird experience, I had my first in-person client meeting in 3 months.
Oh.
And I'm in marketing, and it was an opportunity in San Diego. And it really threw me. The guy last week goes, hey, can you meet on Wednesday? And I said, sure. Do you want me to set up the Zoom, or do you want to set up the Zoom? He's like, no, I want to meet in person. And it really threw me. And what I found funny about it is because we have these agency Zooms, and I was describing to the agent, and every morning, 9 a.m. And I was describing to the agency, I'm like, oh my God, this client wants to meet in person. I really think it's interesting. We better prepare for this. This is coming. And there were several people who were like, no, inappropriate. That is inappropriate. It is not safe. That is uncool. And we need protocol. And I'm like, okay. Literally 60 seconds later, the same person went, oh my God, my hairdresser is taking appointments now. And I have an appointment on Saturday and I'm so excited. And I'm like, what the fuck? So help me digest that. I mean, that one blew my mind. My meeting, by the way, was outside on a patio nicely socially distant, got to talk, really nice to meet someone face to face. We didn't wear face masks, but we were far enough apart.
Yeah.
But the hairdressers touching them, putting shit on them.
That's crazy.
And I get gloves and masks and all this stuff, but I was like, whoa. Like
Yeah.
if we were to dental, if you were like, fuck, I got a toothache or an abscess or needed to remove my kidney or donating a kidney. But I mean, so I was like, yeah, look at that hair. See, people have never seen me, don't know that I don't have a stitch of hair on my head. But I don't know. I thought it was funny. I thought it was actually kind of cool to meet with somebody in person.
Yeah.
I really like the people. That made it even better. The product's really cool. I mean, they're just super duper people. But I thought that one's been in my head for it. I mean, you couldn't have timed it any faster to talk about one-to-one.
What'd you do for the greeting when you met the client? Did you, instead of a handshake, what'd you guys do?
Just a wave. Just a
wave.
Yeah, just a nice to, nice to meet you. But here's where it's coming, baby. Yeah. The Japanese bow, it's coming. It's coming to America, people. It's coming to the world. But it's very civilized, respectful. Like even the movement is respectful. Sure. Like, but holy shit.
So I had to take some COVID back to work training because I've been kind of in and out of the office, but a lot of our people are coming back to the office. And one of the things they talked about were acceptable greetings instead of a handshake. So one was a wave. One was
I don't like the elbow.
One was a Japanese bow.
Love.
Okay, this one, maybe you can explain to me.
The foot one.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay.
This wasn't on the approved list for my organization. So it said, and I'm going to describe as close as I can. It said, raise your hand in front of your eyes with palm in.
Like peekaboo.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's how you greet a 4-month-old.
It said, raise your hand in front of your eyes, palm in. Do you know what else that could possibly mean besides peekaboo?
Yeah, that's how you greet a 4-month-old. Peekaboo. Let's just have an awkwardly phrase, just weird phrase that goes with that too. How are you doing?
Our live studio audience is rolling right now.
Yeah, are they? Hi, weren't you a cute little client? Oh, look, they're smiling. Coochie, coochie, coo. Peekaboo. It's me. It's Greg. Fuck. I swear this fucking world. Well, so I'm glad now touching of all sorts is just out of the picture. Yeah. But at one point, some people were proposing you tap each other's foot.
Oh,
right foot to right foot.
That one. Yeah.
I mean, let's get fucking real. And then the other one, the elbow, equally as awkward because you're turning like just weird shit. Oh my God. And I eat with my elbow, so that wouldn't work anyway. So. Right.
What do you think of getting interns to shake hands for you?
Yeah, no, I'm all
for it. Like your intern shakes their intern's hand?
Yeah, no, I like it. It's like testing your food, like a food taster. Yeah. I like it. And then you see if they had COVID, you test, and then you quarantine them.
We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Bye. You have a new intern every day for 2 weeks, and then you could cycle through them. So you have 14 interns. Yeah. And then then you put them on a shelf. The surrogate, people, come on. The surrogate it's underrated for sure. The business surrogate. Yeah. The greetings. Peekaboo. Hi, surrogate. Oh, fuck. All right. So yeah, big day for me. I thought it was definitely one for the times for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So before we go on, I wanted to remind people Instagram, jump on the Instagram. Couldn't be easier to find. Bird Brag, Instagram. Also, if you have any ideas or bass riffs, you absolutely need to send us. birdbrag@gmail.com is there. Twitter. And then, we love our Twitter followers. We love tweeting. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. And we're learning hashtags. So everyone. All right. What did we learn today, Steve? What did we learn today? So we learned that our topic today goes by at least 2 different names, the American Dipper and the water Ouzel. and hopefully it doesn't go by Jack Kevorkian. maybe it once upon a time did.
Yeah.
We learned about the American Ornithologist Union. Those guys are badasses, helping us with the genus and species of everything we need. What year was that again?
So they formed, I think, in 1883, but they made the standardized list of common names in 1886.
Yeah, I could see, man, I could already see the AOU logo with established 1883 right on it.
Yeah. They changed their name now because they merged with something else. I think it's now the American Ornithological Society or something like that now. So
always happens. Yeah. We learned that you can still say approximately when you use the number 16.5 centimeters, that it's still good to do that. We learned that the water ouzel is plump, round, and not much of a tail. No. We learned about their white feathers on their eyelids. When they close the little peepers. We coined DPMs.
Dips per minute.
Dips per minute. How many? Yeah. What's your DPM?
Oh shoot! I mean, are we talking full on dips, like full
extension? Yeah, full dip extension.
Probably like one.
One DPM.
And then I got to get helped up off the floor.
Yeah. No, I need that often. Was it a nictitating membrane? Nictitating membrane.
Yeah.
Because Steve's words, and I put an exclamation point, they fly underwater.
They can fly underwater.
They fly underwater. Clutch size, we always talk about clutch size, 2 to 4. Clutch size is 2 to 4, manageable, not too crazy.
Yeah.
I like this one. Sometimes the nest can be behind waterfalls.
Yes, that's cool.
Yes. Like the movie Last of the Mohicans, where he jumps past the waterfall.
Well, there's also that Last of the Dogmen movie.
What?
That I think it's maybe Tom Berenger.
And there's a waterfall?
There's like this lost Indian tribe that has escaped Western civilization, and they're living. And I think he maybe had to go through a waterfall to get to there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Dude, I love waterfalls.
Last of the Dogmen. You should watch it.
Have you ever jumped off a waterfall?
Not off a waterfall. I mean, I've jumped off like rocks, but not particularly where a waterfall is, but like into a lake and stuff.
There's a spot when we used to work with the islands of Tahiti that we would go to quite often and do that. It was I love waterfalls.
Yeah, they're cool.
All right, what else did we learn? We learned that they're like Lance Armstrong. We learned that they're a song. We learned that they're a songbird.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. What?
You know what we didn't do yet?
The sound.
The sound.
Oh, hold on. What's one more thing? We also learned that they stink.
A little bit.
They stink.
It's an acquired scent.
Yeah, they stink. Would stink. All right. So we also learned about the inconsistencies of some people when it comes to social interactions these days.
Hairdresser is number one importance.
God damn. And that someone's bringing peekaboo to business culture. Do you do the thing where like you're not smiling? Steve just made the gesture where when you move your hand in front of your face, you're not smiling and then you are smiling. Oh, it's
I love
just
that one.
It's one of my favorites. Okay. I think going out on our water ouzel call would be a great way to end this episode so people can really put it all together. So
you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not so, and especially a cute little guy like that.
Yeah. And you always hear the stream in the background.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's pretty clutch. All right, man. I think we did it. I think episode 13 is in the books. So nice one. Good job.
You too.
Stellar job.
Best yet, maybe.
Man.
No?
I don't know. I never know until I go back and listen to them. I'm never quite sure. I'll send this one to the engineer team, and we'll have them clean it up and see what happens then. And then we'll make a judgment on that.
I love it.
A little sneak peek for people. We're talking about a Lost Facts episode coming up. That would be exciting.
That could be the shots episode too.
We talked about a quiz of playing a quiz for me. So whether that's sounds or facts or things that what I could remember, I don't take copious notes. I've not kept copious notes. So it really would have to come down to my noggin, how good I am at that. So that's something for peeps to look forward to as well.
For sure. It's gonna be fun.
It's a big year, 2020. I mean, there's not much else happening this year. So we seem to be the talk of the town because there's nothing else to talk about.
We've trapped them.
Yeah. I mean, when the world is this boring, you got us. All right, man. Well, we're going to call it quits. We hear our music. It's coming in.
All right. Peace, Greg.
See you, buddy. All right. That was a good one.
I loved it.
I loved it. Can you believe that about that meeting?
No. But at the same time, I've maybe not equally, contradictory that quickly, but we've had similar shit, and people, it's like, wait a minute, I thought you were worried about this and now you're doing this. I don't get it,
Yeah, this is what, I mean, I did it mostly because of the curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I was just kind of fascinated with what it was going to be like, but I'm glad I did it now. I was good with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can do it safely for sure.
Yeah. I think that it'll be interesting because we'll have to put protocols in place for people and some sort of thing. But I mean, I'm a service business. I'm not a state worker. I have to meet, I have to get new clients and shit. So,
yeah.
All right. What's on the docket for tonight?
I'm probably going to have a couple more Miller Lights. And
What does I'm not a state worker mean?
I don't work as hard as you.
Good save.
That's what it means.
Good save.
It means that I have a cush job that's silly. You have a real important job.
No, so I've been having to every Monday pretty much. I give these trainings to construction workers, and they're always in a room, and they make them sit like every other chair and wear a mask if they can't be 6 feet apart. But I'm like, it's what it is.
I wish people would just wear the fucking mask. I would have done the whole meeting in a mask today. I wouldn't have cared, to see him.
Yeah.
But it's now where it was mandatory in San Diego, it's not mandatory to wear a mask anymore. And now they have dining. Like last night I went for a run and there's a restaurant called Ska Bar. And it's nice and open. It's open air kind of thing, but I couldn't believe how busy it was.
Yeah.
And there was 6 feet between tables and stuff.
Right. No, that sounds like, because Carly's were working at Leatherby's in Elk Grove, and it sounds like they're friggin' busy all the time. And they retrofitted and put up, partitions between the tables and booths and stuff, but crazy.
Well, the news story that came out right before we came on was, it said California fully reopened July 25th. How the fuck can they predict that?
Well, yeah. I mean, nothing's gone away. California's cases are still, I don't get it either.
I mean, I think because the hospitals here's the biggest damning thing. They built all those triage hospitals and none of them got used. It wasn't even that they weren't full. They didn't even get used.
Right.
That was a bummer.
But they might after this.
Fuck. Crazy. Right. All right, man. Have a great night. I could probably do another one tomorrow or Friday if you want to bust one out.
You mean on Renee's birthday?
I know. I'm gone. I got her. She got plenty coming on, so I'm not going to be around for Renee's birthday.
Are you still down there, or when are you coming back?
I'm going to come back Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Be back Saturday.
Yeah. So maybe tomorrow I'll see what I can get together, and yeah.
Sounds good.
That way we'll have one in our back pocket that you are definitely not going to release the next day.
Oh, I'm going to post this tomorrow.
I know.
All right, buddy.
I see you, Greg.
See ya.